What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be reviewing a Bleacher Report 2024 NFL mock draft. If y'all are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube jazz, join the community as we are on the way to 10K. Try to get there by the end of the year. And of course, we're going to be posting content like this almost every single day. God forbid, but we are going to do it. If it's going to be the last thing I do on planet Earth, it will be this. So let's have some fun. Let's get right into this. Below my face is my board. Below that are some links. We are actually talking with a potential new sponsor of the show as well. But currently, one of the sponsors, Olipop, one of the sponsors, is also going to be our beloved Underdog Fantasy. So feel free to use those codes. But there's another one that is potentially in the works. We'll see how that goes. So stay tuned. Could be exciting. Could not be. We'll see what happens. Pick number one. This is again based off of the current schedule. So there you go. You got Arizona Cardinals going Marvin Harrison Jr. Again, I don't believe this is going to be any form of trades up in this bitch. So, it makes sense. If you're not going to trade out of this spot, this is the best player that you can get. A lot of people still might clamor for Caleb Williams. That's not going to be me. It's just too much money. I think Kyler Murray's a really talented quarterback. And again, there's based on the antics of the potential negatives of Caleb Williams, he's not the Trevor Lawrence where it's like, okay, well, even back then, I guess we thought he was scheme independent, but you can't miss on that type of prospect. Caleb, even though he would work because the system essentially is very similar to Kyler Murray, or is very similar to USC's, I just don't have full faith in it. So we'll put it that way. Marvin Harrison Jr., an excellent selection here at number one if you cannot trade out. Bears in going Caleb Williams. If they have the number 5 pick, which I assume based on they have a top 5 pick based on their own, I don't disagree with this. Quarterbacks are expensive. This is worth taking a shot on them. I hope that the legitimacy of the idea that he needs ownership in a franchise is kind of just more somebody trying to tank his stock. I hope that's the case. Do I know whether that is or not? No. And even if it came from like Caleb's dad or something, it could just be Caleb's dad trying to, boost his son's value. Say, oh, my son's so good, he should be a partial owner. He wants to be really invested in his franchise. But it just worries me. It does. However, it's worth paying the price. You have 2 top 5 picks. Spend one on a potential generational talent. If it works out, you have Patrick Mahomes 2.0. If it doesn't, you still tried your best. So yeah, they have the number 3 pick here, so it does make sense. Bears going Olu Fashanu. A lot of people are huge fans of going Olu. I think it's a perfectly fine selection. I prefer Brock Bowers, and this is the main reason why. I think, well, one, to be fair, I think you should trade back with a team that has a veteran, proven left tackle and go that route. However, Olu Fashanu is an amazing tackle. Again, he's number 6 on my board. I'm not going to disagree with that whatsoever. He's been, besides against JT Tumalau, pretty lights out. So good for him. I personally just believe that you can find another Olu Fashanu in another draft. Now, I'm not saying maybe you won't be in a position to draft him if your team's good. You got Caleb Williams. So again, this is still an A- to A pick. This is still really good. For me, I just will never, I don't believe we'll see another Brock Bowers for a while. Like Kyle Pitts was his own unique beast. We haven't seen another one like Kyle Pitts. I don't think we're going to see another one like Brock Bowers. So that's my headspace right there, because also you're essentially going to be down to DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. That's my thought process. But I do understand, again, it's an A pick. It's a really good pick. It's just, got to be a little bit of a devil's advocate because I want to more so lobby for Brock Bowers than against Olu Fashanu. Then the Giants get Brock Bowers out of Georgia. I think if Drake May's on the board, that's the route to go. Even if the money is unattainable for the first year to get rid of DJ, just do it. Just do it. Do yourself a favor. And, worst case scenario, Drake May sits for 3 years. We've seen that work with many quarterbacks. And I feel like Drake May could honestly benefit from a little bit of sitting time before he gets into the limelight. So I think it's still a fine pick, Brock Bowers, but there's better ones. New England Patriots going Drake May. If he's on the board, that is an A++++++++++. Green Bay Packers going Joe Alt. Yeah, it's the right thing to do. David Bakhtiari has been the cornerstone of their offense for, well, when healthy, since he's pretty much been drafted. It's not going to be, you can't bet on drafting stud talents later on. Green Bay Packers have a very fine-tuned palette when it comes to developing later round talents or finding guys down the board. Granted, most of the time, those are the guys we believe are falling, i.e. Zach Tom, who I had as an early second round grade. I was a big fan of Zach Tom. All right, I know I had a second round grade on him. I don't know if it was early, but when y'all got him in, I believe, the fourth or fifth round, it was like, oh man, that's a good pick. That's a really good pick. And he's developed into a really quality starter. And, you can't bet on that. This is a surefire thing. Joe Alt, he's had his struggles here and there, but he's consistent. You just know what you're going to get out of Joe Alt. It's kind of like that Trevor Lawrence versus, Caleb Williams here with Olu Fashanu, right? Like Olu Fashanu, again, it's not one-to-one, but essentially all the talent in the world, the big playmaking ability, just the raw athleticism that you can't find anywhere else. Versus with Trevor Lawrence, it's like he just has everything that you're looking for. You can't go wrong. Maybe he's not as high upside in terms of, the supreme playmaking ability, but still gets up there. Still is like an A grade again. For this, it's an A+ move. Next, we have the Colts going Keon Coleman. If they don't have Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Pittman Jr. on their team, this is a very apt selection. The question is, will they have him on that team? If they do, sometimes it's a little too many mouths to feed in that locker room. There's some good players there, and it'd be almost a shame to see Keon Coleman go there when there are other issues, including DB, that should be addressed first. You got the Raiders going Jerzon Newton. It's a pick that I've made myself. It's an A+ move. Right now, he's the best defensive interior player in all of college. You got the Broncos going Latu here. I mean, I get it. Bigger edge rusher, tons of upside. He's going to get a regrade very soon. I already regraded him this year, and he actually dropped. I got to watch more games of him, I guess. Like, I continue watching him, and I just don't see it yet, but I'm going to watch every single snap until I see it. That doesn't sound like great analysis, but, if I watch everything and I still don't believe it, then, I'll stick to my guns. But, again, the statistics and, the qualitative and quantitative analysis does point towards he should be a top 10 pick. You got the Rams going Kool-Aid McKinstry. If he's on the board, that's an A+ move. Obviously, since Jalen Ramsey kind of patched the corners with essentially like a Kelly Witherspoon there. That was a really good signing, in my opinion. And, it basically made sure Darian Kendrick wasn't a corner one. Thank God. But that was the main reason why I was actually dropping y'all to 1 win on the season. Thought about giving y'all 0 wins. And, being able to hit in the draft, but also be able to get some quality free agents. You guys saved yourself on that big time. Commanders going Jared Verse. I don't feel like I need to explain that. It's a great pick. It's a great pick. Cardinals then going Denzel Burke. I think corner is an excellent selection. I'm surprised Denzel Burke's now getting this level of love. Granted, this is, mock drafts sometimes over-exaggerate their love for players. However, Denzel Burke, he's been my number 3 corner since the beginning. I believed in him because of the fact I saw the progression over the year. I thought he was just a very talented corner overall. He ended off the year hot versus Georgia, did a very good job, even in a game where they allowed a lot of points. He wasn't the main reason for really any of the failures. So someone who I believed in. He's had troubled injury past, but, fingers crossed. Injuries don't always translate from college to pro. It's a weird pseudoscience that, it doesn't make sense. Like Frank Gore tears his ACL something like 3 times in college, all of a sudden pretty much healthy 99% of his career. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So, for me, I'm going to leave the medical evaluations to the doctors. And I think that's fair. I don't claim to be a medical expert. I have medical experts in my family. They're the ones who I trust. I am not going to be the one to make any claims here. But Denzel Burke, when healthy, is a stud, and I think he'd be a good addition to the Cardinals secondary. I would still take Kalen King over him, but that's beside the point. Buccaneers going Rome Odunze. I don't disagree with this given the public perception of Rome Odunze. I'm still watching more tape of him, and I'm including in my first rounds to make it realistic, but I'm still not fully there. I do think, given the perception of him as 6'3", 215, like he is a potential X receiver for the future. So not going to disagree too much there. Cooper DeJean for the Chargers. I feel like it's a little bit of overlap with Derwin James there. I don't feel like he's going to play the free as well as, maybe some other safeties in this class would. And out of respect for Cooper DeJean, I'd hope he goes somewhere else where he has a little bit more flexibility and basically can play the Derwin James role. That's where I want him to be. So unfortunately, this is the one team where, I'm really uncomfortable with that idea because I don't feel like he complements Derwin James very well. And again, I want the best for Cooper DeJean, and because he has unbelievable potential. But this is one of those spots where if this happened post draft eval, I'm gonna be like, he's gonna be a great player. He just could have been so much more in a role where he was essentially Derwin James. Then you got the Titans going J.C. Latham, that right tackle spot. Chris Hubbard's there. I would prefer J.C. Latham, if he plays through the whistle, to be there. Not going to be against it. Of course, Talise Fuaga, a guy who I really love. Keep Nicholas Petit-Frere at left tackle when healthy. Andre Dillard there too. The left tackle class, I don't know why people are fighting me on it. It's not a good left tackle class. You got the two top guys, and then it pretty much vaporizes. I want guys who, when I put them in the first round, even if they don't go there, like I want it to be semi-understandable. It's like, oh yeah, I could totally see that. This guy could be a really, really good starter on a team, potentially, down the line. And technically every player could, to be fair. Again, it makes sense. But the believability and the projection is, for this left tackle class, not great. Like you have Kingsley Suamataia after that, and he allowed 3 pressures this past week. And he's just not looked comfortable at left tackle. So I don't even consider him there. Karan Amejaje, that's how you say it. He is very fun to watch, but this guy is a 2 to 3 year project. Like 2 to 3 years. He's pretty much the on sale version of Olu Fashanu. Like that is a big swing to be able to try to talk about that as a potential star tackle. And I think certain people can do it, like Jeff Stoutland. However, want to pump the brakes on. I give him a lot of hype and I give him a lot of love because he deserves it. But again, I would not put him in a first round. Even guys who could be third round picks on like the consensus third rounders, they could be arguably end of the first picks. Makes sense, like Jordan Morgan. This class just doesn't have it. It doesn't. But now continuing on, you got the Saints going Dallas Turner. I'm not against it. Dallas Turner's a freak of nature. I don't feel like the Saints could go wrong by addressing edge rusher. Doesn't really fit the physical profile that they're looking for, but I would not say no. I'll put it that way. You got the Jets going Malik Neighbors. They do need wide receiver help. If they don't get offensive tackle help, then receiver's the next best position to go. Besides Garrett Wilson, they don't really have a bona fide weapon there. And that's a good compliment to Garrett Wilson. Next, we got the Bengals going Emeka Egbuka. I think that's honestly a better it's a better running mate to Garrett Wilson, but that's beside the point. Emeka Egbuka would essentially be in the slot over Tyler Boyd. Given the fact that T. Higgins was not traded, I assume he honestly might be franchise tagged and then signed to a longer term deal once they have a better idea of their cap situation. That's a big guess on my behalf. But Emeka Egbuka then would be a very solid addition in the slot. And you can't go wrong with this super stud out of the Ohio State University. Next, we got Atlanta Falcons going Chop Robinson. Doesn't fit the profile physically what they are looking for. They kind of already have that sub 260 edge rusher, and Chop is 250 on the dot essentially. Chop's an amazing player. Not trying to knock him by any stretch of the imagination. He's a great player. There just is a 270-pound edge rushing position that the Falcons are looking for to fill, and Chop is not fitting that role. He is the Arnold Ebiketie role, which is filled by Arnold Ebiketie. But Chop Robinson's still a great player. So, apparently, he replaced Arnold Ebiketie. So, if you want to get rid of Arnold Ebiketie, who I think is a good player, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. You got Minnesota Vikings going J.J. McCarthy here. At this selection is an A-plus move. Obviously, I would have won him for the Falcons with the previous pick, but I prefer to talk about what the pick is rather than what the pick isn't. And J.J. McCarthy, if he is here, is a very quality addition to a team that is pretty desperate for a future. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. has not been good at all. I don't know what the sentiment is here. I used to be really high on Jeremiah Trotter. The more I watched him this year, this guy has not improved remotely. Just hasn't. He's undersized, 6 foot 230. He is 4'7", maybe 4'8" on the 40-yard dash. He is not athletic. And his ability to process the game is his best trait. He hasn't done a very good job of that this year. So I would be very disappointed if he were the Steelers' second, maybe even third round selection. There's a lot of quality linebackers that especially are a lot better than Jeremiah Trotter this year. And I would be very happy with us taking them in the third round, even if Jeremiah Trotter's there in the third round. We got the Texans going Xavier Worthy out of Texas. Overlaps too much with Tank Dell. You got to look at the complements to what they already have. For me, the area of most growth is maybe getting a true X receiver. I love Nico Collins, and I think he should remain a primary weapon. But I do feel like, naturally he's not on the tier of a DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm a little bit biased here, but Johnny Wilson could be a great complement for that. You get Tank Dell, John Mechie. You got Xavier Hutchinson there. So, I would hope that he could step into that role. But if you're going a wide receiver, I'd go after a bigger profile because I do feel like the smaller, deep threat is already pretty much covered. Now, is it a bad pick? No, I just have my preferences for another player. Now we got San Francisco going Tyler Guyton. As long as he finishes the rep, that's all that really bothers me. This is a great selection then. I, again, have right tackles above him, including one at my number 3 overall spot on my board. But I do understand Tyler Guyton. I saw him from early on when he filled in for Wanya Morris last year. Tons of potential, just needs to finish the block. Now we have the Bills going Cam Kinchins. It's a great pick. He's a top-tier safety who deserves a lot of love. The question is, can he handle Buffalo? We'll see. Next, we got the Seahawks going Zach Frazier. That makes no sense to me. The center out of West Virginia. Olu Oluwatimi is going to be a very, very talented center. And then you got Anthony Bradford at that right guard spot. I honestly feel if you want to upgrade that left guard spot, maybe. But the center and right guard are filled for cheap contracts for over the next 3 years. Like, as of the end of this season, the next 3 years are covered. Minimum. I don't get this. There's not much that you can really address on the Seahawks. This is not the draft for them. You could, of course, go quarterback. I think that would be a very smart move, given that there are some very good quarterbacks on the board. But, the Seahawks are in a very good place. There's a reason I gave them a 14-3 record at the start of the year. Their offensive line has depth. It has really solid talent. Their running back room, obviously I'm a little bit biased because my buddy Zach, but, I do know that they have a good amount of depth there, including DJ Dallas, who was one of my favorite guys in the first draft I ever talked about for the show. Receiving core, they're deep as hell. And defense, they're pretty much deep everywhere. So, and Boye Mafe's ascension is excellent. I was really hoping that he would develop into that. And y'all got to realize that when there's players like Boye Mafe that need a year or two to develop, have patience. Same thing with Trevon Walker. Have patience. And, we're not a patient civilization. We're not going to get into sociology here, but, there's certain players that you need to have patience on, and including Anthony Bradford and Olu Oluwatimi. So, this team, they don't need anything really, especially at this spot. It depends if you sign Leonard Williams, but I assume you will. Next, we got the Cowboys going Barrett Carter. I'm not going to be against this one. He is way better than Jeremiah Trotter. Similar size, but way more athletic. I just don't know why people aren't factoring the fact that these guys are 230 or sub 230. And Barrett Carter's a talented athlete, but damn, the Cowboys can use it. It's just you're essentially getting 2 really thin linebackers there with DeMarvion Overshown and Barrett Carter. Jaguars going Leonard Taylor. He's fallen off a cliff a bit this year, which is so weird. He's been very inconsistent statistically. He'll have a 4 pressure, an 8 pressure game, then he'll have a 0, then a 1. It doesn't make sense unless I have the theory he's not in shape. I will let your eyes do the analysis for you, but the tape is really what makes me feel like he does not He's not fully conditioned. Again, a lot of players have that. They're 300 pounds. Bodies are not naturally supposed to be 300 pounds. But the way he plays, he gets gassed out way too quickly, and I just don't see 100% effort on many plays. But when he does give 100% effort, it's hard to find a better player than him. So hopefully he ends up going and, upgrading the Jaguars, because not like they really need much of an upgrade, but, you got to do what you got to do. Ravens going Cooper Beebe. Glad he's getting a little bit more love because, PFF's dropped him into like 150s or something. That's just a shame. I don't feel like the Baltimore Ravens need to invest this high of a pick into interior offensive line. He's not remotely on the tier of Tyler Linderbaum, who obviously I had as a top 10 player on my board that year. So, the value just doesn't add up. But I do appreciate the love for Cooper Beebe. And again, you can't ever go wrong with going offensive line. But if you're going to go one, go Graham Barton, because he can also fill in that tackle if you need him to. And this is a very good selection for the Lions for him to be the right guard. But of course, in the case of any injury, he can fill in. So it is very, very valuable. Then we got the Dolphins going Chris Jenkins out of Michigan. Again, glad to see some love for Chris Jenkins here. I'm not going to be against it. He essentially is going to serve as a run stuffing unit that has pass rushing upside. And he's one of the best run stuffers I've seen. Very smart, very tactical. And he put on 20 pounds. He lost a little bit of that athleticism, but he retained a lot of that power that he had with the speed to power, and that is a major asset. I think he could be a really good addition in the NFL. And then the final two picks, you got the Chiefs going Patrick Paul with the banned Houston uniforms, which is so stupid. NFL, come on. Come on, man. What are they doing? They might sell some jerseys. Whoop-de-doo. No one's going to your games in a University of Houston shirt. So, a little rant right there. I'm not a fan of Patrick Paul. Statistically, he's done phenomenal. He's a good quality size as well. I just don't see it with my eyes. I will continue to watch and continue, just like Law 2, to try to change my opinion based on the tape. But I just don't see it. However, I do like the idea of going and investing offensive line, especially in a weak left tackle class. This does, add something there. You got the Eagles then ending off the draft with J.T. Tuamalau. I do believe that this fits exactly what's up the Eagles' alley. He's done a very good job progressing. People try to say he's not progressing. That's BS. People just had high hopes for him, and, he's not Chase Young. He's a very good edge rusher. He still has tons to learn, but he's developing and he's getting better each year. It's weird because I'm the one who is low on JT Tuamalau. That's just because he's statistically low on my board. He's top 64. But I see why I would take him here. For different teams, you have different boards. This is an overall board below my face. So, for JT, he's just done better and better, and I do appreciate that, and I do acknowledge that. He's continuing to rise up my board, so good for him. You know what? I'm happy for him. The Eagles, they could totally use somebody like that. There's still developmental time for him as well with the edge rush rotation that they do have, but it's a position of need with a player of extreme value. So that is going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the far side.